Welcome back to Reliving Retro. This is Season 6, Episode 3. And if you're new here, we pick one game at random every single week, invite a guest on to rate it and play it with us. And we rate it in 5 different categories: story, gameplay, visuals, sound, and how well it aged. And this week we have a very special guest with us, and I'll allow him to introduce himself. Go ahead, buddy.
Hi, my name is Kaden. I'm a pretty big, I feel like, supporter of the podcast.
True story.
Not really sure where to go, but I've gotten some stuff that has kind of feel like provided for the podcast to keep it going and things like that.
For sure, he's definitely one of the bigger fans out there. Appreciate you, buddy. He's a patron, and speaking of the Patreon, if you want to support us financially, I suppose, for as little as $2 a month, you can go on there and suggest a game for us to play. Next week is our Patreon episode. That game has already been selected. However, in another 4 weeks, we will have another Patreon episode, and it's the quickest way for your game to get played on the show. So, a couple of getting to know you questions, Kaden. What was your introduction to gaming? I know you're a little bit younger than us, so
Yes.
the normal answer for like guests on our show tend to be the NES or the Atari. So I'm very curious to see where it started with you.
So I actually have the game with me to my side that I was introduced to. So this game right here, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, based off the like cartoon, I guess, animated movie from I think 2005 when it came out.
Nice.
So I lived a couple doors down from my grandparents at the time, and my grandma was playing that game, and she could not get this level. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, she decided to call me. I don't know why. So she called me, and she had me come over, and I was the one that was able to help her with that. And that was kind of my introduction to gaming, was that game.
Cool.
So
nice. I feel like that's fairly rare, having your grandmother be the one to be like, here, play this video game and help me out. You know what I mean? No, that's really cool, though. So how old would you say you were when you first started playing games?
Probably about 3 or 4, maybe. Like nice. Maybe a little bit younger than that. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, I'm not going to recall.
Gotcha. So what would you say your favorite types of games to play are?
I'm a big RPG guy. I like shooters a little bit, but not like not to just play them by myself. I play them with my friends so I can get, because I don't always get to see my friends from school or growing up, because obviously we all have different venues of life. Yep. And then I'm a big, I guess it's like Banjo-Kazooie, like Conker's Bad Fur Day kind of games. I think like 3D platforms, right? I'm also a big Madden guy.
That's cool.
Love Fallout, as my shirt says.
Very cool. I've put way too many hours into the Madden franchise.
I know that feeling. Madden can suck you right in.
So in high school, I used to run a Madden tournament at least once a year, whenever the new Madden would come out. And by Madden tournament, I mean I would get 8 of my friends, and I would write down all the players' stats in a notebook, and I would walk around school that day and randomly select a draft order and then have them draft teams all day at school.
Like a fantasy draft, kind of like you'd mark who.
Yep, but but they didn't do that in the games back then. I'm talking like Madden 04, Madden 05, right? Like you were like a year old or something. So like,
oh yeah, I wasn't playing those ones.
Yeah, so back then, right? You couldn't just do that. So then after the teams were selected, which sometimes took like 2 or 3 days, depending on, that's just crazy. It sounds crazy that a fantasy draft would take like 2 or 3 days.
Well, because I know back then what you had to do is you had to go into the roster and manually say, hey, I want to trade this player for this crappy player, and just put them in there together and be like, oh, this is what we're going to do.
That's how I had to make the entire roster for all 8 teams. That would
have been, I couldn't do it.
Once the teams were drafted, I had all 7 of my buddies come over my house, and then they took turns creating their teams from scratch.
Like the create a team thing that's kind of absent in Madden nowadays.
Yep, and then they did like the create your own stadiums and stuff like that. And then I made a schedule where we played team twice, and it was crazy. It was like it was a 14 game schedule, and then there was playoffs after that, and it was insane. It was crazy.
It was kind of like an alternate take on the Halo LAN parties of yesteryear.
Yeah,
kind of.
So yeah, so like the crazy part is like we would all go back to my house and we would watch all these games, and yeah, we spent a ton of time playing Madden. Long story short,
it's very Rigney of you.
Yeah, Yaiser knows I can get real in depth with things.
Madden 07 on the PS2, but sorry, what were you saying?
Madden 08, I think, was the one that I did.
Vince Young, the Vince Young year.
The one with Vince Young on it. Yep.
Yeah, there's that one. Sean Alexander for me.
Yeah. All right. So, what would you say? What are some games that you've been playing lately?
So I've been playing Starfield because it just came out recently, like less than a couple weeks as a recording. That, and I've been big time with Madden 23 because I haven't gotten 24 yet. Just so I can do something because I don't always want to play Starfield. And then I've been playing some Fallout, not a lot because I'm kind of tired of it because I was playing that up until Starfield came out, and then probably just those games, really. That's about it.
Nice. What about you, Yaiser? Have you dabbled in anything other than Need for Speed?
I played Need for Speed quite a bit, actually, but I dove into New Game Plus on Chrono Trigger a little tiny bit.
Oh yeah, you sent me some screenshots of that. That's pretty cool. So you're revisiting Chrono Trigger, huh?
Yeah.
You enjoying yourself there?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's nice having all your shit.
Yeah. Are you gonna try and get all the endings?
No, I don't think I can do that.
No,
that would take the rest of my life probably.
Hunter, how many endings are there? Like 20 something, right? I could be wrong on that.
I don't know. I thought that there were 8, but there could be more.
But there's 8, but then you can do all 8 of them like with Chrono, without Chrono, or with what's his name without him.
So there's like different variations of each.
Yeah.
Of the 8 endings. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I've been obviously I've been playing Need for Speed Underground. Played that a little bit on Twitch. So if you wanted to watch us play that, well, not just play that, but play any game that we play for the podcast, head over to the Twitch because that's where we play those. And then I also dove into F-Zero 99, which is a free-to-play game if you have Nintendo Switch Online, and I've been having a blast with that one. What about you guys? Did you try it yet? I've been texting you.
I haven't downloaded it yet. I'm sorry.
Slacker, bro. Slacker.
Sorry.
I think you'll have a great time with it. I'm being honest. If you like racing games, I think you'll have a good time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Moving on to Need for Speed Underground, which was the game of the week. Kaden, how many hours did you play this week?
Probably 2 or 3 because I was playing it when I grew up because my uncle had a PS2. So it was just one of those games that I kind of just needed a quick refresher on.
Yep. Same for me, actually. I played it for about 2-3 hours. And same thing. I put so many hours into this game as a kid, but I'm very glad that I went back to it though, because there's a lot of stuff I forgot about. So
I agree. It's the same thing with me.
Yeah. What about you, Yaiser? How long did you play it for?
Probably like 5 or 6 hours, honestly.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's pretty sick.
Yeah, I got pretty close to the end.
Oh, really? So I guess we can kind of start with story here. But before we get into the actual story of the game, once you start the game, I guess I'll get into the plot a little bit here. So you start off in a race, right? It's like it feels like a big type of race, and then next thing you know, like after you win the race, you're being woken up by this girl named Samantha, who tells you
you're taking like a dream or something. That's what it was, right?
Yeah. You're like daydreaming or something like that. So then you go and you pick your own car. Yaiser, what car did you pick?
The Civic SI, of course.
I had a feeling you were going to go with the Civic, which is why
EM1, dog. I had to pick the EM1.
Which is why I didn't go with the Civic, because I had a feeling you kind of went with it. Now, I said on stream, I said, I said, part of me wants to take the Neon, but I know Yaiser's going to make fun of me if I take the Neon. So I took the Miata because the Miata was always the car that I chose as a kid for some reason. I loved Mazdas. Nice. I think it's because my sister had an RX-7, and I thought that was cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah, it didn't run, but it was cool. It just sat in our driveway for like 5 years.
Those rotaries are a bitch, man.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was like, the only thing I knew about it was that it had a rotary engine, and those things are like impossible to fix. So
they're horrible to fix.
So that's the only thing I knew about Mazdas, and I thought Miatas were cool, and that was basically the reason why I always picked them as a kid.
That's fine.
Kaden, what did you pick?
The Dodge Neon.
Nice.
Just because, to me, seeing a Dodge Neon do drifting and things like that is just hilarious, because you wouldn't think of like two-door coupe car made to be like a economy car drifting. You wouldn't see it going toe-to-toe with a Supra from Fast and Furious or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is funny because I mentioned this in the playthrough too. That it seemed like in the mid 2000s, all anybody cared about were import cars. Like it just seemed
that's so evident in games like this at the time. It's
like the Fast and the Furious came out, and everybody just wanted to have the coolest import car ever. Yeah. And so to even have the Dodge Neon in this game is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, I chose the Mazda, and then Yaiser, you said you took the Honda, which I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So
I traded it for the Acura. So.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't get there. I ended up off stream actually, because I played it a little bit more off stream. I ended up trading it in for the Lancer because I like Lancers.
Yeah, Lancers are pretty cool.
It wasn't an Evo though, dude.
What's that?
It wasn't an Evo though.
Listen, dude, I don't care.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so let's get into story here. Yaiser, what'd you think of the story?
It was there.
Yeah.
And I gotta give it credit for that. But following it, dude, I didn't follow it at all. I wasn't paying attention to it. Yeah. But it was there. I'm gonna give it a 2.
Okay. I landed the same area as you did. I landed on a 2. I initially was just gonna hit it with a 1 because I'm like, there's a story, but is there really? I mean, it's really just like do a race, win the race, do a couple more races, and then you get to a race where you have to impress somebody, do that race, and then you just do more races.
Yeah, the tournament races were weird too.
Yeah. So I landed on a 2, but I wanted to bump it up from like the 1 and 1.5 that I was originally going to give it, because something that doesn't impress me now really, but impressed me a lot as a kid, and I always remembered looking forward to it, was getting my car on the cover of those magazines. I thought that was actually kind of sick. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was awesome that it didn't just show a stock image of just like a random Miata. It showed the exact body kit that I was using and everything too.
It's your car, dude.
Yeah, so I thought that was awesome as a kid. I was just so excited whenever it was just like, oh, your car's on the cover of whatever magazine, and I'm like, I can't wait to see it. Yeah, and then so I would just get on there and look at it.
But magazines?
No, it is kind of funny talking about that. Like really, like nobody uses magazines anymore either.
Like Thrasher, or obviously this was before my time, but Thrasher obviously was like the premier skate magazine. That's kind of what I think this game is trying to do, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well they had like import car like magazines and stuff like that too back in the day.
Yeah, they did.
All right, Kaden, what did you give story?
I had it at a 3, but looking back at first, I was like, probably like a 2.5, maybe, just because the story itself kind of seems like it was trying to be undercover, which I don't remember if undercover came out before. You know how you get the BMW or whatever, and how like it builds up, how you have at the very end of one of them, you have the car that you worked all game for. I think it's the second one. The second one, you kind of just don't have it.
I think I said this in the playthrough too. I don't think I played any other Need for Speeds. I think I only played Underground and Underground 2.
So undercover, you literally go in the first one. You work the entire game for this car. that you have at the beginning. And because it gets like repoed or whatever by this dude that you lose this race to. At the very end of Undercover, you get the car. Undercover 2, you have the car for like 10 minutes, and then the entire thing is just done. So that's kind of like, to me, that was kind of the same beginning of Underground and Undercover, because I was like,
Right. Well, you start off in the daydream, right? And you have like that sick Acura, and then you wake up and you're like, oh,
like you don't have that car. Yeah, you're like a different car.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of knocked it, because I was like, the story's kind of there, but it's just kind of too close to when the other one is.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Like, I don't even know how they've made like 10 Fast and Furious movies. Like, what is the storyline? Do we care?
I think everyone just wants to see what stupid stuff they're doing now, because like they went to space and a Pontiac Fiero with a giant rocket strapped to the back. Like, who cares anymore?
Wait, is that real? They did that in a movie?
Yeah, I think it was 9.
I think the last one I saw was like the 4th one. And then
I stopped caring after. I stopped caring about the racing just to see what stupid stuff they're gonna do now.
I legitimately thought the first one was good, and then like Too Fast, Too Furious, I used to watch all the time. And
that one's pretty bad.
That one is bad, but that one was like, it's like nostalgic for me, like because I watched it so much.
Well, because back then that was great. That was probably the best one, obviously, because the first one seems kind of short, but the Too Fast, Too Furious, at that point it seemed like it was just Paul Walker's franchise. I mean, it kind of was in general, but still, like, back then, it just was like, oh, that's great.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't really know what they're going to do for story when it comes to, I mean, you're just racing, right? But, all right. Yeah. So, I think pretty predictable scores there for story. All right, Kaden, why don't you kick it off for gameplay?
I had it at a 4, but I felt like that was a little bit too fair. I'm probably going to do like a 3.75, just because I don't like the whole fact of how I had to control it. I don't know if either of you had experienced this, but when you're trying to go faster, the acceleration is the right thumbstick.
No.
That's what it was for me.
I just used X.
Yeah, same.
It might have just been whatever I was playing it on, because it was weird, because every time I tried to accelerate, because certain games from that like time frame would do that. So it knocked it for me because of playing it like that. Because if I wanted to go fast, I couldn't like just brake real quick and drift. Like I had to just go all the way and hit a wall.
Gotcha. Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't experience that, but I mean, again, I know like you had some emulation issues. So I mean, it's a potential
that's more than likely what it was.
Mapping out the controller or something was weird. Yeah. What about you, Yaiser? What'd you give it?
I had it at a 4. I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay.
The only things I could say that I didn't like about it were I found that it was so hard to not crash into other cars.
Oh, it's so bad.
Like the traffic was just so hard to avoid for me. I don't know if it's because I played it on my phone, which my phone honestly ran it pretty well.
Yeah.
Surprisingly well. I just had a really hard time seeing like oncoming traffic. And I would just blast into them every fucking time. But
what quality did you play on? Because for me, I didn't have that issue.
I don't know. It was whatever the default is on my phone.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy sometimes that like your phone can run like PS2 games pretty flawlessly.
Which you would really think that's not something that could be done.
I got some slowdown, some like frame rate slowdown going through like, I don't know if it was like Chinatown or Little Tokyo that it was supposed to be with all the fucking lights in there. It would slow down a little bit.
Like the red light district?
Yeah, something like that. It would slow down a little bit through there. But
I had some slowdown during menus, which is weird. That was the only time I experienced slowdown.
Did you guys do the emulator on the PC or
that's what I did?
That's what I did as well. I only had, it was when I was loading into and from races, it would just like skip a couple seconds and it just like loading insanely fast.
Yeah, mine was that whenever I changed menus. So like whenever I went from like pick like the race map or whatever to customizing my car or whatever.
That's what I had pretty much.
Yeah, just navigating the menu was the only time, which again, I'm assuming that's an emulator issue, so I'm not knocking it at all there. I actually gave the gameplay a 4.25, and I enjoyed this game way more than I thought I was going to. I actually was a little fearful going into it because I was like, man, I hope this isn't like a Twisted Metal experience where like I enjoyed the game so much as a kid and I had so many fond memories of it. I don't want to go back and kind of like tarnish those memories. But no, like they all came back and I was like, this is as great as I remembered it being, honestly.
Yeah.
So for the gameplay for me, I think all the different race variations made the game stay fresh. You know what I mean? Where like a racing game can get so dull and repetitive. This does a fantastic job of making racing feel fresh with just simple race variations. Like there's the normal circuit race where it's like 3 to 4 laps or whatever. Then there's a sprint, which is just not even a lap. It's just from point A to B. I found that those ones, for me at least, were the most difficult. The sprints I always thought were the hardest ones. Then there was drifting.
I feel like those ones were hard because somebody would always end up hitting you, and like right at the very end they'd hit you, and you'd be like, "Oh man," because
now you have to restart the whole race over. Yeah. Then there's drifting. My favorite, which were the drag races. I thought that those were so much fun. And Yaiser, I know that you're going to remember this. This is before Kaden's time probably, but it brought me back to Nitto days.
Oh yeah,
you played Nitto right on the PC?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. It reminded me so much of Nitto, other than like like on Nitto how you could set like your expected time or whatever, because it was basically like you wanted to.
Yeah.
It wasn't a race. It was always how close could you finish to your expected time.
Yeah, it's called bracket racing.
There you go. I don't know words, but you said them great. Thank you. Yeah. So just all the different types of races, and then they had like the elimination race, which I don't remember what it's called.
I know you're talking about where like whoever finishes last in each lap. Knockout. Yeah, that was a little.
Knockout. Yep.
Yeah.
Yaiser coming in strong with the words again.
The
knockout.
One, yeah, it's called knockout mode.
Yeah, those were a lot of fun too. Yeah, so just all the different racing variations I thought were so cool. And then the amount of customization you can do to your car is like
it's
wild.
Insane.
Yeah. That was something that I honestly like I could have spent hours on if I wasn't just trying to play as much as the game as possible. So I could have spent so long in those menus just trying to pick out all the different like vinyl decals and stuff like that for your car. And now I don't know if this is something that like flew over my head and I couldn't figure it out, or if this is just an issue with this game. But couldn't you paint the vinyl? Like, couldn't you change the color of the vinyl, or was it always white?
I think you can. I don't remember. I didn't mess with the vinyls because
I didn't do it either, because most of it I feel like was just you want your car to look the dopest at the car meet, and then you just go race.
I was messing around with the vinyls because I guess because I'm a nerd. I don't know, guys. I was trying to make my car look really cool with like some like
flipping corny, dude.
Flame.
You gotta get the white flame vinyl with my Dodge Neon was literally neon green, so I had to get everything was either green or white. Man, I had to go.
That's what I'm saying. All right, so like I said, there's just so much that you can do in the game. So that's something that I feel like it's so important when talking about some of these older games too, is like, did you feel like you got your money's worth? And I felt like with this game, you definitely got your money's worth. You could put so many hours into it. All right, kicking off visuals now. I'll do that. I gave visuals a 4. I felt like everything looked really solid as far as like the car models. The cutscenes I thought looked really, really good for the PS2, which not always the case for the PS2. Sometimes it looked a little choppy. But the cutscenes looked great. My biggest issue with the visuals, and I don't know if it's every map or just the ones that I played on, but I hate in racing games when the street looks wet. Even if it's raining.
It just looks all weird because it looks like it looks like it's a hardware issue, but it's not. It's just how they designed it, probably.
Yeah, it's like it looks like disorienting. Like I feel like it was harder to make things out, but I honestly felt like the environments were designed really, really well. So I landed on a 4 for visuals. What about you, Yaiser?
I was on a 4 too. I like the fact that it's basically just one big map, and each track is just carved out as somewhere in that map. Yep, so even though the maps are technically different every race, they're familiar. Like, so like kind of what to expect there. I did enjoy that, but
and then they flipped them too. Sometimes they flip them.
You can do them in reverse too. Yeah, but I think the visual thing you're talking about that like sucked is what they had to make everything at nighttime because it's you're street racing. They had to, for some reason, it had to be at night. I wish they didn't make it have to be at night, but yeah, I think that was why it was hard to fucking see. But yeah, again, that's probably my biggest gripe with it too. But
I learned that I hate driving at night in video games just as much as I hate driving at night in real life. It sucks. Right. What about you, Kaden? Where'd you land for visuals?
Probably like a 4.25. I had him at a 3.5, but then I was like, you know what? I realized that I was kind of harsh on it because I also don't want to age myself too much either,
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's a good point.
I honestly didn't feel like I was playing a super old looking game. Now,
it felt like maybe it was that weird slight window between the PS2 and the PS3 when they were trying to figure out if things were going to be HD only or anything like that.
Yeah, so I was actually really impressed with how the visuals looked. I thought that they were going to be super choppy and kind of grainy, and it ended up looking well.
I thought.
Yeah, ended up looking really good. All right, Yaiser, why don't you kick off sound?
Sound, okay. Soundtrack is very, very, very early 2000s, but being our age, that's fucking dope, right?
I mean, I enjoyed it. Yeah,
I gave it a 4, honestly. Okay, I'm up there with a 4.
Quick question, not to interrupt you, but Kaden, how many songs did you recognize off of this thing?
Oh, I know almost all of them because I grew up with that. I mean, hey, it's a great soundtrack.
Yeah, all right, so what'd you have it at?
I had it at a 5. Oh, maybe a little biased, but
damn, okay.
Those are my area of expertise. I love those artists. There's one song in particular. It's by Rob Zombie or something. I don't know. It was a weird Rob Zombie song.
Yep.
I don't know why that just kept playing. I was like, I love this song, even though it was just repetitive. And then there's like T.I., DMX, Get Low, which that's one song you gotta play. Yeah. If you're going to a party, that's a song you gotta play. And then it's just
on the East Side Boys.
It's just one like it's very like. I mean, I was born in 2003, so it's not like I'm not trying to age myself either, but I grew up with this stuff, so I'm used to it.
Yeah. All right, so just a couple of the artists that are featured in the game. We have Rob Zombie, we have Static X, we have Rancid, Story of the Year,
P. Pablo.
Yep, Lost Prophets, Lil Jon, Mystical, Nate Dogg, P.D. Pablo, T.I. Now, something that I kind of noticed during my playthrough, but I wasn't sure if it was an actual thing or if it was just kind of like randomizing that way. I noticed that all the rap songs, they were
the clean version.
Well, no, so the rap.
Well, I get that they got to be a clean version, but they weren't like. I think there was a way I think where you could like say where they're playing because that's why I did that. Rob Zombie song where play in everything.
Oh yeah. You could change it, right?
Do that.
Yeah, I know you could do that on like Madden and stuff too. But no, what I was gonna say was, is that the rock songs, if you leave it as default, the rock songs play during the races, and then the rap songs play during the menus, which I thought was kind of interesting, but also kind of like it made sense that like during the races you would want like a faster, more like a action sounding song rather than like a rap song. But I thought that was pretty cool. So looking it up here, there was some other stuff that was supposed to be on the game that ended up getting deleted off of it. And we got Rockstar by Nerd. That one was supposed to be on there, and it ended up not being. We got some songs by Fabulous, 50 Cent, Mos Def.
What?
Yeah, there was quite a bit of songs here that ended up getting the cut before.
But they couldn't afford them?
I don't know. I don't know what it was, or maybe just too many songs.
Well, 50 Cent, his debut album, Get Rich or Die Trying, I believe that was that one. That came out in 2003, I believe. So he was probably like, nah, I'm not going to be a part of a game right now. He wanted to be like obviously he was popular for several years. I mean, still is, but not as popular when he wasn't.
The biggest album of that year for sure.
Yeah. The song that 50 Cent had that was supposed to be on here is called "If I Can't."
That's a good song. Yeah, it's a good.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting. I actually landed on a 4.
I know that song. Yeah.
I actually landed on a 4 for this one as well. Even past the soundtrack, sometimes with racing games, like the engine sound or whatever can kind of get annoying, like during the race. But I never found that to be the case for me. And I really, really enjoyed some of the crashing sounds. I loved like when sometimes you would push like the other racer like kind of off screen and then you just hear crashing like in the background. I found that to be pretty humorous. So so I landed on a 4 for sound, not only because of the soundtrack but because of the sound effects during the races. I thought were all really good.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
And then all right, Kaden, I'm gonna have you kick off Aged.
So I was 5 months old when this game came out. So that tells you how aged it is for a game this time. So I had it at, hold on, let me check what I put in my notes. 1 second. So I had it at a 2.5 just because of the controls. Might have probably just been how I was playing it.
Okay.
I feel like this is one game that could really do with a remake or like a remastering kind of, because of obviously with like somewhat more modern music, because a lot of those artists aren't really at all relevant anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like this game I probably gave it like a 3. Not really something. I mean, it's aged, but it's not like super, super aged either.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that. What about you, Yaiser? Where'd you land?
I gave it a 4. I thought it aged pretty well. I think you said earlier, it didn't feel like we were playing like an old game. But I would be interested to do Underground 2 one day to see the scores I gave that, because it did everything this game did, but like better. With the open world, they had way more cars, way more upgrades you could do.
Yeah. I thought that Underground 2 was the one that I remembered more, but I think it was actually this one. I think I played this one more than I played number 2.
I played as a kid Underground 2 so much.
Yeah.
That was the first game I remember really playing online. It was this and Halo 2.
Oh, that crappy phone line internet with the.
Yeah, I think we had broadband by then, but.
All right, I gave Aged a 4.5. I felt like it deserved a pretty high score for Aged here, especially considering the visuals didn't feel super dated. The soundtrack, while it is the most dated thing about the game, still felt like it was appropriate for what the game needed to be. You know what I mean? And then the gameplay I thought held up. I mean, I don't, Kaden, you said you had some issues with the controls, and that very well
that probably could have just been how I was playing it.
Yeah, that may very well have been a thing for you. However, I thought it was awesome that you could switch between automatic and manual. And for manual, you
back
could
then
use a
lot of games you couldn't do that really.
Right. Well, so manual, you could use the right stick to shift up and down.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, which I actually thought was kind of awesome. I didn't use that because I know that would have made the game 10 times harder than it already was for me.
Oh, yeah.
But I could just imagine like somebody just being nasty with the manual shifting of the right stick and stuff. And
that would throw me off, just sitting there and seeing my buddy going, "Oh, there's that."
Yeah. I thought that would have been a pretty fun thing to just at least try. But all right, so here's where we're at for overall scores. Yaiser, you actually came in at the lowest on this one with a 3.6, but I would say, I mean, this is one of your favorite games that we've played in quite a long time, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, its story is the only reason why it was that low.
Yeah, I agree. And then Kaden was in the middle here at a 3.7, and then I rounded out the top here with a 3.75. Nice. Overall, some pretty solid scores, and I'm really happy to see that, because, like I said, I had a little bit of a fear going back to this one, assuming that maybe we would run into the same issue that we had with Twisted Metal, where we're just like, this isn't as fun as I remembered it being. But no, it was every bit as fun as I remembered it being. And before we move on to randomize the next game that we're playing, Yaiser, would you recommend that somebody relives this game or even plays it for the first time?
I would say play number 2.
You would say skip this one and just go play 2?
It's basically the same game, but just better.
Okay.
I think the open world aspect was just so much more fun. There's so many more cars, so many more upgrades you can do.
Yeah.
And I really do think it was a better game, even though, I mean, I gave this game great scores. It's a good game. If you have it lying around, you don't have to. Yeah, sure, play it. But if you have, you're just going to emulate one of them, emulate 2 for sure.
Okay. It's sound logic, but it makes me feel like I like, you know what I mean? Like I wanted to say like, go out and play it. You know what I mean? Because like I enjoyed playing the game, but like you made a great point. Like if you know what I mean? Like 2 is the same game, just better. So just go play 2.
Yeah.
I guess I agree with Yaiser then, which makes me feel sad because I enjoyed playing this game a lot and I wanted to recommend it. Kaden, what about you? You saying the same thing Yaiser said?
I mean, I personally would recommend it just so you can see, because this was still kind of the infancy of Need for Speed. I mean, there's obviously several games in the series, but still, though, like, it's a game that I would definitely give a shot. I would recommend it to people because even if you don't enjoy racing games, give it a try. It's something different. It's also kind of trying to be Fast and Furious. But
yeah. Well, so I feel like this is the Need for Speed game that kind of put Need for Speed like back on the map. Like Need for Speed came out with games way before this, but
I think the 90s, like late 90s, right?
Even like early 90s, they had like bad like PC games basically.
A lot of franchises start out with that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that this one really hit the mainstream and hit it hard, and probably due to Fast and the Furious and import like popularity at the time. Excuse me. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that Underground is such an important like entry for the series that I feel like it's a must play. Whether it's this one or number 2, you definitely have to play one of the Undergrounds. Did
you guys let the opening credits roll long enough to hear the guy tell you to not do it in real life?
Yeah,
a lot of them did that back then. Now they're just like a text. It just says, "Don't do this in real life."
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious that they had to shoot that in the rain for some reason.
Well,
like he gets out of the car and it's just like pouring on him, and he's just like, "Yeah, I wouldn't do this stuff in real life unless you're me." And then he gets back in the car. Like,
well, because I think that the people they would get to do that are the people that are like, I think Travis Pastrana was in one of them. Like, I think that's his name. He's like a Nitro Circus guy. Like they'd always get all these people because kids back then were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna listen to them," and then 20 years later they have a piece of crap now Miata that blows an engine in a couple seconds when they're trying to impress the girl.
I've been in some cars with some of my friends. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, that's Need for Speed Underground. Let us know in the comments below what you think of that game, whether you would recommend it to a friend or not. And Kaden, buddy, now is the time where we randomly select one of the Patreon games to play. And I'm going to vaguely describe this game for you. So let me hit that randomizer. And then good luck on guessing, buddy. All right. So we have a sports game. Now, hold on. I'm going to be a little bit more specific here because just saying a sports game for the Super Nintendo that came out in 1994, 10 years before Kaden was born, might not be of any use to him. So this is a baseball game with a very...
I have an idea. I think I know what it might be. It's like Super Baseball, like 2000 or some or whatever number.
That is a Super Nintendo game. There is a game like that. This is not the game that I am talking about though. This one has a very, very recognizable athlete on the cover.
Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball. Is that the one?
Ken Griffey Jr. presents Major League Baseball. Yes. So this is cool. Yeah, this is the first.
See, I know a thing or two. Okay, I ain't that young.
This is the first like legit sports game. No, like I don't know, no gimmicks. I guess you could say, right? Because
like was trying to simulate what a real like sporting event of whatever it is like.
Yeah, I mean, because we played NFL Blitz, right? But that's like a very arcade barbaric version of the NFL. And it's certainly not a simulation type game like Madden is. And then we played Mario Superstar Baseball, which has been one of the funnest games I think that we've played so far throughout the entire show. So we have that to compare it to, which can only mean great things. Super Nintendo baseball game has got to be a lot of fun. Now, I didn't play this version as a kid. The Ken Griffey Jr. game that I played was the one for the N64, and that one I played all the time. So I'm very curious to see how this one holds up in comparison. All right, Kaden, got to put you on the spot one last time here. Can you give us a retro recommendation to add to our master list?
I have two, actually, because I don't know if one is already on your list, because I feel like it's more of a popular game from around the time I was born. The first one is Ratchet & Clank, the original one, not the PS4 remake, just because I feel like that's a good example of a early 2000s platformer.
Okay.
I don't know if it's already on there. And
it's not on there.
The other one is the Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay, which is kind of like Doom 3. It's actually a prequel to that movie. It's okay. It's okay story-wise, but the gameplay is really fun because you can see where certain newer games get inspiration from stealth. Like, it's a very stealth-oriented game, because if you know Riddick, the movies, he tries to be a little sneaky, even though it doesn't always happen.
Gotcha. So I never saw the movies. That's Vin Diesel played in them, right?
Yes. So
I can't even imagine him trying to be stealthy. Like, I'm watching like Triple X.
Because he's just like, yeah, testosterone.
Yeah, that sounds like Vin Diesel.
But this was also this came out, I think the movie came out around the same time that Fast and Furious did. This was him trying to not just be that movie.
So is Chronicles of Riddick, is that a PS2 game as well?
1 second. It's on. So it's on several things. Hold on, let me check, because I looked it up just to make sure. It's on Xbox and Windows.
Oh, okay. All right, so we're looking at mainly an Xbox game. Cool. We don't play very many Xbox games, so that's.
It was something that I figured not a lot of people know about, just because it's kind of an obscure title, really, because not a lot of people even know about the Riddick movies.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking for, honestly, when we ask for a retro recommendation, because obviously, or like Sonic the Hedgehog, which it's kind of crazy that 6 seasons in, we've only played one Sonic game, and it was 3D Blast. We haven't gotten to a regular Sonic the Hedgehog
Sonic
game
3D. Is that the one with the weird bird's eye perspective? That's you're here.
It's angle. Yeah, and
like you're trying to do the Sega CD or whatever. Yeah, I would have done that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was fine. It just wasn't great. But anyway, all right, that's it for us for this week, guys. I want to thank Kaden for coming on and being a guest. Much appreciate all your support for the show. So next week we have Ken Griffey Jr. presents Major League Baseball for the Super Nintendo.
Hit some swamp donkeys.
Say that again?
Hit some swamp donkeys. That's the term. That's a lot of people my age say.
No, I never heard that, not once in my entire life.
Once you hit a home run, you say that's a swamp donkey, or you just say a swamp donkey. I don't
swamp donkey.
Yeah, I don't know why it's called a swamp donkey, but when I played baseball, that's what we called it.
I'm gonna have to look that up, and we may or may not have to edit that out of the show, depending on whatever swamp donkey means.
I don't know. I just know it's a term for a home run.
Okay. All right.
We'll try to hit some of those, and if we don't, then I guess
hit some dingers,
Dinger is something I'm very familiar with. Yeah, ding it. There you go. That's a vernacular I can get behind. Yeah. So you can find us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube if you're listening on Spotify if you're watching on YouTube, and also check us out on Instagram, and that's pretty much all the places, I think. So yeah, thank you again, Kaden. Really appreciate it. And until next week, guys, take care.
Peace.